a react was suggested, and I'm kind of down for it. I think we can take a look at Madseasonshow's video. Why MMORPGs are so antisocial now. What a lovely intro. What a lovely intro. Okay. The legend.
Hey guys, what's up?
Good, bro.
Madseason here, back with another video for you.
What's up, dude?
MMOs are a unique genre of game in the sense that they're one of the most player dependent. While there are countless multiplayer games out there where you can play with friends or strangers, it's often optional, and the game as a whole is designed to be completed from start to finish solo. And while there's much to do in MMO solo, they seem to be unique in the sense that other players aren't
Really enjoyed Lost Ark.
even
Really
an
enjoyed
option, but instead
World.
a requirement. Even if you're not interacting with them in any way, their existence is still crucial, which may not sound logical at first, but I'll ask you this. If every single other person playing your MMO quit, and you were the only one left, would you continue to play? Putting group-based content aside, such as raiding, dungeons,
arena,
PvP, the value of your gameplay is drastically reduced. Why would you get that ultra-rare mount if there's no one to show it off to? Why farm gold if there's nothing to buy in the auction house? Rare achievements to be proud of no longer exist because now either 0% of the players have them or 100% have them. How much damage you deal, how good of a tank or healer you are, everything in MMOs is relative to your fellow player. So if they don't exist, there's little reason to play other than to explore an empty world with nothing but NPCs to talk to.
Do you guys think that your gameplay in MMOs is primarily motivated by comparison to other players? Because I think that it is fun to like put up big numbers in BGs and like be like, yeah, that's me on the scoreboard and like get cool achievements and stuff. But I think a lot of what I do is like content creation, but also I think there's a big element of like me just setting goals for my own self and trying to do better than I did before. I do think that MMOs obviously are like better with the more people playing, but I think I do play games to kind of like, you know, just set goals for myself. But it is fun to set goals for myself in an environment where other people are also doing that, right? So we're all vying for a similar kind of thing or all sharing a similar kind of experience. And I think that is cool. And I think that is probably more important to me, like the shared experience. We're all kind of excited and interested in doing the same thing and working on that together, even if we're on our own journeys, than just like, I got a cool mount to show off to people, or I got this PvP achievement to show off to people. I think it's a little bit different. So I'm not like, you know, I'm down with him sort of presenting his case, but I don't think I agree 100% for my own situation, because I think a lot of it is less of like showing off, but also like a shared experience. Like, I think it's really exciting when a new game comes out, even if I'm playing it solo, but we all are kind of like talking about like the builds we're trying out in an action RPG, or like, you know, cool drops we've gotten, or like our favorite boss or whatever. Like, I think that a shared experience is more important than necessarily like just showing off. But let's see what else he has to say.
So, this relationship between players has served as a core foundation of the genre since its inception. But despite this, something you hear quite often today is how antisocial they've become, or some would even say toxic. Well, that's the what. But what about the why?
Welcome
to episode 3 of MMO Theory, a series where we analyze the MMORPG genre and its inhabitants. And today we seek to answer why people are saying MMORPGs are not as social as they once were. So the entire discussion of this video will be based around the following concept. If people are seen as assets, they'll be treated as assets. And if people are seen as obstacles, they'll be treated as obstacles. Commonly, MMOs during their early years operated on the weak tie interdependence model, which is a concept in sociology where other people who you may not even know are critical to your success. Maybe it's a tank you find in looking for group chat who tanks the bosses for you, or maybe it's somebody with the tailor profession who sells you bags for inventory space, or even something as benign as their existence is used as a marker for comparison of performance.
Okay.
If these people who you don't even know nor even interact with didn't exist, your success would either be hindered or halted altogether. And this model proved to be quite effective in the early years of the MMO. Because people were dependent on each other, they were more likely to treat each other as the assets they saw each other as, which in turn opened up more opportunities for collaboration and interaction. So really, to understand why MMOs have become more antisocial and toxic, we have to analyze why people now see their fellow players as obstacles instead of assets.
Interesting.
There's no one single...
So this is one of those situations where just that brief mention of sociology, it's just another one of those situations where just like a hint of the depth of what he's talking about makes me like aware of how much I don't know, which happens all the time. Like when I'm talking about how I feel like connected to other players and the relationships that I have, there's a lot of research that would probably be able to describe what I'm talking about, but hopefully we can still like share an experience and have it be valuable, even if we don't understand the intricacies of all those relationships. I think that what he's trying to do is just lay it out for us, but that's kind of one thing that where I'm like, okay, there's a lot of research into all these kind of like ways that people interact with each other and are connected to each other, and that's just like a whole nother situation. But I'm glad that he actually has some kind of foundation to that and has an idea behind it. So that's interesting to me, but it makes me feel even more clueless, you know? It gives me, it gives me an even more clear picture of how much I don't know. It's interesting though.
Reason for this, and our answers lie not only with how the players have evolved over the years, but also the environment. Another core pillar of MMOs is change and the unknown. It is a genre of game where the finish line is constantly dangled in front of the player like a carrot, and when they take a step towards the carrot, it is taken a step away. Although today, it's a pretty transparent design philosophy. In its birth, it was pretty well obfuscated by the unknown and the intimidation that the genre once held.
I don't know, I kind of like to always have something to work towards, and I don't really mind that it's like, even if it's like artificial, like I think number go up and get stronger and kick butt is actually a fun thing that kind of clicks in my mind. You're saying competition is a good drive in any game, even non-MMOs? Yeah, I think I am motivated by competition, but I also think that, like, I definitely am. But I don't think that everything I do in the game is just to show off to other players necessarily. What would be the point of chasing it if you can't really share it with someone else? Well, that's why that's one of the things I said I think is that my position as a content creator kind of changes the way I approach games. Because part of the fun for me as a content creator is just sharing my experience with you guys. And if I think of something that's cool, it's like, yeah, check this out. This was cool. I guess that in some ways that is showing it to people, even if it's just not like always in the game. But again, like sharing my experience is part of the fun, even if it's not only just sharing my accomplishments, right? Definitely as a content creator, one of the main things I like about what I do is sharing my experience. So absolutely, even if it's not competitive.
Didn't have time to question why they were playing, nor did they have any reason to. They simply played because it was enjoyable and because there's something new to discover around every corner. Familiarity is the villain of the MMO because unfamiliarity brings challenge and intimidation to create these dependencies. In the late 90s and early 2000s, as technology improved and computers had started to become more affordable and standard to households, people for the first time were able to interact from others from across the globe. Multiplayer games were common, but massively multiplayer games, where people explore this shared, persistent world and build these online communities and take on large-scale group-based content, was brand new. So it was therefore fresh, it was exciting, and it was unknown. Many reminisce fondly to the early days of World of Warcraft, for instance, where somebody is always asking for help on how to find Mankirk's wife, or people are discussing the latest or upcoming patch. Server communities interacted with each other on the Realm forums, and guild chat was always active.
I feel like that's how Kata feels right now. I do think that actually having everybody on the same server and even in like a guild is actually a really neat vibe. I think it's cool that you can like do everything cross realm in modern WoW. I think it helps people like be able to play together and play on servers that make sense to them, but having everybody on the same server is definitely a very, very cool thing, and one of the things that I'm kind of like, you know, enjoying about classic Kata.
However, just as how the game has evolved, so too has everything surrounding it, and that same person who couldn't find Mankirk's wife due to the evolution of database websites now looks it up on Wowhead. People are now chatting on Discord,
Yep.
instead of guild chat or the realm forums, and discussions in the in-game chat about new content updates now take place in stream chats, or they don't take place at all, as there are now comprehensive, easily digestible guides released months before the new patches or expansions hit. Between database websites, data mining, guide culture, early access alpha streamers, these MMOs and expansions are solved before they're even released, because information in MMOs is power, and power leads to advancement, whether that be player power, aesthetics, whatever, is one of the main goals of the players, to draw advancement from an
Trying to find
world.
a place to.
These third-party platforms provide more flexible and
rhythm.
convenient ways to deliver information and in turn advancement, and they also connect fellow players without needing to be in the game itself, leading to a much quieter, non-dependent, and antisocial experience for those playing.
So I feel like he's not necessarily, I don't think he's saying it's bad. He's just providing an explanation of why that is. But yeah, I mean, like, you absolutely have way more access to information, but I personally do like that. I mean, one, as a content creator, I get to make you guides. Second of all, if I don't know what something is and I need to know, I just Google that bad boy and it's like, okay, cool, I'm good to go, instead of spending more time fussing around. Yeah, you do have more platforms to communicate, more areas to learn stuff. But somebody's spamming guild chat for where something is, how to accomplish something, I guess technically is more social, but I don't know if that's like valuable still. Interesting though.
Because of this and the passage of time
do this for the
itself,
first time using my
players have
guides.
become
Glad
better
next, bro.
and more
Glad to hear it, man.
knowledgeable. They've become better at their classes.
Glad to hear it.
They know what a dungeon is. They know what a raid is. They're familiar with a lot of the common raid mechanics, and they also know generally what the next content update holds. And what's worse is that this wouldn't be as bad if the player base wasn't
fun games there.
stagnant. One of the major reasons why MMOs became popular during this golden era was that they were unique. To be able to interact with strangers from across the world and build these communities and tackle these tough challenges was extremely unique and exciting. MMOs were one of the very first pioneers of social media, but as the online environment has evolved and social media websites are more and more common, it's lost this unique appeal. A lot of its gameplay elements have also been adopted to other genres of games, whether that be the loot in an action RPG, talent points in an FPS, or a shared persistent world in a survival crafter. All of these things that used to define the MMO genre have been adopted by all others, so it's lost a lot of uniqueness in not only its social nature, but also its gameplay elements, and with it, it's also lost its intrigue and the unknown it once held.
Well, I mean, MMOs were so influential on gaming in general, so like pushing forward the genre of gaming as a whole is something that MMOs definitely did. I mean, as someone who continues to enjoy MMOs, I mean, like, I feel like it's still having a pretty big impact, even if they're not the like Fortnites of the world currently, right? But yeah,
but that's not the full story here.
Super huge.
It is
super
a genre
important
of game that offers rewards for commitment and patience to a player base that has increasingly lost commitment and patience. Technology and social media has brought convenience and accessibility that we couldn't even imagine before they were adopted into the mainstream. But with it, it's also introduced struggles, because finding and consuming information no longer requires as much focus. People's ability to focus has reduced by as much as 50% since its adoption into the mainstream. A casualty is that game genres that are long-term oriented, such as the MMO, have suffered, and it's failing to captivate this new generation that's coming into the industry. The genre's player base is getting older, not younger, so due to this diminished uniqueness and people's diminished attention span, it fails to bring in this new, unfamiliar audience, and instead retains an aging player base that only gets more and more familiar as time goes on, even on.
See, I feel like he's speaking of this negatively, but we're the ones who are willing to commit, willing to enjoy the persistent world, willing to put in work over a long period of time to be able to experience all the cool things MMOs bring, which is like the social element, which is like the progression. And I don't know, people are kind of missing out on that. But again, I feel like he's explaining a position which probably is an objective fact that less people play MMOs than they used to. But I don't know, I feel like the vibe of WoW, at least right now, is pretty dang good. But interesting.
On an individual level, the stagnation doesn't just come from its reduced capability to bring in these new players. It also comes from its inability to lose players. There's a huge sunk cost fallacy with MMOs, where you have people who've been playing a single one for years or decades even. For some, it's all about the moment, and experiencing them is the reward itself. But for many others, to jump ship and to play a different MMO, in a way, is equivalent to wasting this immense investment of time and money. These games are almost constructed to be these virtual lives, and people have treated them as such, and they take it very seriously, and they put a lot into it. So now,
yeah, I guess it does depend on like how you look at it, right? I mean, I try to spend my time in a way that I enjoy and that I think has value. But again, my position as someone who creates content for a living and gets to spend time on games that is at the same time like fun for me, but also is productive from like a work perspective, is likely different than people who are just doing it in their free time. But I hope people don't like regret what they've done or feel like they can't do other things. That would be a bummer. But I can see that being a possibility, right? Social media will ruin us all. I don't know. I think you just need to be mindful, right? You need to be mindful of what's happening and use it in a way that makes sense to you and who you want to be and how you want to be, right? Because there are a lot of things in the world where it's like easy and comfortable to do. That's not necessarily the right thing to do, right? It is easy and comfortable to just sit around and just like eat, you know, crappy food all the time. But that's not what you should be doing. You should kind of be willing to tolerate a little bit of discomfort and go get some exercise because you'll feel better and it'll be better for you. You should maybe be like, yeah, I'm not going to eat this like hyper palatable sugar fat mixture, and I'm gonna eat some protein and vegetables because that's gonna make me feel better and it's gonna be good for me, and it'll probably still be in a like a okay experience, right? You don't have to do things that just suck all the time, but you're gonna have to be willing to not just do the easiest, fastest, lowest effort thing, right? Because that is going to ultimately lead you to better stuff. So you need to be mindful of like, yeah, like TikTok is designed for me to be able to just scroll for hours, right? But you have to say, okay, but I'm not going to do that, right? You have to be able to take charge of your own actions and the way you spend your time, which again, there is a system and a lot of systems set up to make that hard for you to do, because it's easy to make money off of people who just want to do the easy, fast thing. But you can be aware of that and still not let that happen. So if social media you feel like is going to be a problem, then don't participate in it the way that you're afraid that it will affect you, right? But you can't really solve that for other people, but you can sort of be an example, and you can sort of participate in and be part of communities that are not just completely immersed in doing the easy thing and just like kind of sitting around just scrolling for dopamine, right? I feel you though. I do feel you. There's definitely some things that you need to consider. I'm with you.
not only is the genre failing to bring in unfamiliar players, within itself, these new MMOs are failing to seduce this aging player base from the ones that they are quite
really
intimately familiar with,
really
due to how much they have invested into it. Familiarity is the death of dependency. It breaks this weak tie interdependence model that the genre used to be crafted around, and because of this,
that breaks my
there's
immersion,
no
that kind
more
of stuff
push
right
to
there.
ask for help, to ask questions, or to interact with each other at all. And this itself has created another problem. Perhaps in an attempt to attract this TikTok Zoomer generation into stepping into the genre, one of the reasons why MMOs now feel antisocial is that they're simply designed to be antisocial. It's undeniable. Interacting with other people is seen as inconvenient, and you see it evidenced in most games in the genre. Quests no longer require groups, raiding in dungeons are queuable at any time, mob tags share. Features such as automated matchmaking and dungeon finders and raid finders streamline the process of finding a group, but
I don't know. I've just because of I want to quickly and easily get my vault, and I want to get the bronze tokens. I've been doing LFR. It's actually kind of fun. People definitely talk in there, and the content is definitely easy. But I don't know. I think it's kind of fun. Just because I also have good gear, so I just get to go in there and just like crush it. And people who don't have as good gear can like get through it quickly and like get some loot, which is like I think it's kind of fun. Just because it's easy doesn't mean it's good. Oh, exactly. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. But I would also say I think this thing that a lot of people go for, whatever is kind of like easy and chill, is not a new thing. Just what we're going for that's easy and chill just kind of changes over time, right? But yeah, it's always been like that, and you have to just kind of be willing to take a slightly more challenging, more rewarding, more productive road. And that's just one of the sort of challenges of a human. I don't think it's anything new, but I think that TikTok in particular is new. And I think that people are probably trying to like wield this tendency of humans to try to just do whatever's like easy and chill and make money off of that. And it just looks different over the course of time. But still, gotta be willing to put yourself in position to challenge yourself here and there and not just kind of take the easy road, both with your actions and with your attitudes, right?
Often at the cost of meaningful social interaction. These systems tend to create
I think LFR is
groups
kind of fun,
focused on completing content as quickly as possible, with little
just
to no
get in there and
emphasis
blast
on communication or forming lasting relationships. It's all about instant gratification and getting dopamine where it's needed before.
Or I think LFR is like it's like a tool to like get yourself started so that you can start joining these groups, you can join these guilds. But it's just a type of content that's like, it is quick and easy to access, which is still kind of fun. But I think it's a bit of like a starting point for people to then go and do what they want to do. Like they get their gear so they can raid with their guild, or they get their gear so they can do Mythic Plus. Or for me, it gets me my bronze tokens and my like sockets for the week so that I can then go do arena with my friends. And like still, I will also say that in LFR, the LFRs that I've been to, people are like chatty and like dropping feasts for each other and stuff like that. A lot of people say hi to me, which is really sweet as well. But like, just I don't know. I don't think the LFR has to be this kind of like environment where everybody's just like ooh people, but it can be for those people. Some people like to play that way. Jenny likes to play kind of like by herself doing her own thing, and so LFR might be good for her. But I don't know. I also like crushing the meters, so that's fun too.
Or this reduced attention span turns what could have been a lifelong subscriber.
I don't think that what he's saying is not true.
Forever uninstall. And so what this demands is a design that is simple, streamlined, and convenient.
I don't think it's not true.
Reintroducing the requirement of other players to find success is not simple, it's not streamlined, nor is it convenient.
Right.
So all of this
can drive people away.
Whether it be the environment around MMOs evolving and sapping away their social ability, whether it be retaining
I think I'm just sharing a perspective that doesn't align with what he's saying.
Familiar with them as time goes on.
Again, my perspective is different.
Or whether it be the developers designing them this way, they've become very antisocial. Gone is the unknown, and with it, the dependence. If you're seen as an asset, you'll be treated as such. And if you're seen as an obstacle, you'll be treated as such.
It's hard to get people to be willing to commit to like the long grind forming a group. I mean, even me, I get annoyed with Classic. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to run to this dungeon. And I love WoW, but I don't love Classic. I enjoy the conveniences and the quality of life of modern WoW a lot, in addition to the gameplay. So I can sympathize too.
This weak tie interdependent system that these MMOs were designed around has aged poorly, as it's dependent on dependence. So as this dependence wanes with increased knowledge and skill, so too do the social ties and etiquettes that used to encourage interaction and cooperation. And as a result, what you're left with is what is probably one of the most antisocial, social-based genres to exist. Like the video if you liked it, because I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Good job, Madseason. Big thumbs up to you. So I think that I agree with a lot of the things that he was sort of bringing as examples to the message of MMOs being antisocial. I just don't know if I agree that WoW is antisocial in my experience. And I feel like if you say only World of Warcraft, people only in WoW talk to each other less than they used to, probably, right? But my experience even with WoW is different than his, because I didn't play back in Classic Vanilla, TBC, or Wrath. I started in Kata, and when I started in Kata, I feel like my experience with WoW has probably mostly been about the same, except I probably do talk less in guild chat. But I think that part of the experience with WoW, and again, it's it's influenced by me being a content creator, but also as just somebody who interacts with YouTube and Twitch a lot, even as a viewer. Like I just like to consume WoW content. I feel like the discussion of WoW and the community of WoW just has expanded to just not only in the game, but again, if that's his point, that the in-game experience has become less social, maybe. But I feel like the community experience of being a World of Warcraft player has expanded, right? Because now we get to know people's personalities through their stream or through the people watching streams and communicating in chat. Like, I don't know you guys personally, but I feel like if there are people who tune into my stream frequently, or even just for a day, you get an idea of their personality just from how they express themselves in chat. But people who tune into my stream frequently, I feel like I absolutely have an idea of your personality, at least as how you present it to me. And I think that's really, really cool. So I would say the community has expanded quite a bit. And I think that in a lot of ways, the addition of social media like YouTube and Twitch and everything else has actually been a net positive to my experience of World of Warcraft. And not only as a content creator, like as like getting to know people who I play video games with, and then I see them stream and I get to know like what they look like, you know, their mannerisms, you know, and I get to see more about how they actually, you know, set up their UI and like how they play. That's really, really cool. And I like that. And I think that another idea that I want to touch on is that in order for MMOs to sort of stay a thing, they do need to change over time, right? And I think that some of those changes may be felt as like a negative or like less of what it used to be, which kind of could take the soul away from the game. But I don't know if that's actually even the case. I don't know if it's bad or taking the soul of the game to make it change and adapt to a player base that is now in a very different world than it used to be. And the game just needs to be different than it used to be for the players who still are sticking around and playing it. It doesn't need to be classic vanilla forever, even though classic vanilla for some people is like their favorite thing, and that's why SOD and other classic iterations have been successful, because people love that. I don't. So it's also important to have the game continue to change and evolve, become a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more like quality of life introduced to it, and be willing to take some risks and change some things. And I think that's just important for the game in general, even if it makes it seem different than it used to be for some people, which again, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. But what's so neat is that there are so many people who enjoy playing WoW in different ways, that we actually have a lot of different ways of playing WoW that are all relatively successful. And with retail continuing to be kind of like the granddaddy, push the game forward, but people can play whatever. I'm having a lot of fun with Kata right now. It's really cool to be back. I think that Kata is is my favorite classic experience so far. But yeah, it's an interesting idea, and I think that we'll see it continue to develop over time. Maybe more solo content available in MMOs could be interesting, but I think that what will be fun for me about that solo content is sharing your experience with other people if you're going at it, right? Like if there's like some kind of like rift system like there is in Diablo, you can say, yo, how's your build doing in this rift? Like what rift have you pushed to? You can get rewards based on that to show off what you've accomplished to other players, like the Mage Tower challenges. So I think that there's a way for solo content to be a thing where you still can have a shared community experience that feels like an MMO and is exciting and fun. It's just not like it's a giant pain in the ass to try to figure out where a quest is completed, right? You can watch videos from content creators, you can ask somebody in Twitch chat, you can ask a streamer like, hey, how do I do this? Can you show me? And they can do it. Like that's, I think overall a good thing. Ease of information is a good thing, even if you are asking in guild chat, trade chat less how to do something. So I don't know. I think it's cool. I like that video though. That's a cool topic. I don't think I fully agree. I think that he has some good points though, and I'm glad he made it because I like his videos a lot. But yeah, neat. Let's get back to gaming.